Good morning, everyone. Today, I, Dr. Priyanka Moria, I am here to explain you and unfold certain attributes pertaining to the scope of peace economics. When we talk about peace economics, what we are doing here, if you recall that in the first part of this unit, we talked about the concept of peace economics as the integration of both the concepts, one the concept of peace and then the concept of economics. So what we did there, we utilized certain concept of economics in order to understand certain attributes that related to restoration of peace. It was emphasized that yes, peace if has to be restored, and the conflict of any sort, the wars should be avoided. And if yes, the wars have happened, they should be, at least effort should be there in order to manage and resolve the conflicts. Going on with this, today I, Dr. Priyanka Moria, again want to emphasize the concept of peace economics using a fact sheet first of all, because with the help of this fact sheet, I'll be explaining you why at all peace is required and how the economies are actually following the concept of peace, and henceforth the concept of scope would be explained. Now, the fact sheet pertaining to peace-loving economies exhibits that these are the economies that prioritize peace, diplomacy, and conflict resolution as a part of their economic policies. They deliberately make efforts in order to restore peace. They try to avoid conflict of any kind, and in case, yes, the conflicts occur, they try to resolve it. Institute of Economics and Peace considers the data pertaining to 163 nations, wherein it has taken 23 indicators including safety, security, domestic and international conflicts, and it calculates the Global Peace Index. Today, I'll be considering the data pertaining to Global Peace Index 2023. In that, Iceland is the country which is on the top. It is because of the fact that there is low crime rate in that. The education system is pretty strong, and the people are paid fair wages. The second lead is taken by Denmark, wherein political system seems to be strong, and there are less violent conflicts. Later on, we talk about the peace-building economies as the economies which are, the other economies include Ireland, and New Zealand is also one of the economies. Now, there are certain economies who are characterized by the existence of wars. These include Afghanistan, Syria, South Sudan, Russia, Ukraine, etc. So going on with this, I would like to explain you the scope of peace economics. Peace economics means the boundary lines or the horizons of expansion that relate to the expansion of the concept of peace. In this context of peace economics, I want to say that the peace economics is multifaceted and it is quite broad. It encompasses various dimensions and aspects of human life, society, and international relationships. There are certain key aspects of scope of peace. Number one is peace building and development. When we talk about peace building, peace economics establishes and examines the relationship between peace, growth, and economic development. It explores the mechanism by which the investments in peace building, conflict prevention, and post-conflict reconstruction would contribute to the sustainable development, poverty reduction, mitigation, and economic prosperity of any nation. We know that the wars are complex, they should be thus avoided. The next concept is conflict prevention and resolution. Peace economics examines the factors that contribute to the outbreak of conflicts and explores strategies for preventing them. In this regard, I would like to highlight certain factors. These factors include resource scarcity. There is a paucity of the resources, they don't have resources, inequality, massive poverty, unemployment, low capital formation, and it also aims at, peace economics thus aims at identifying the economic incentives for peace building and conflict resolution. The next is social growth. In social growth, we say that one of the most important aspects of peace is that it has the ability to ensure social growth. When people live in peaceful environment, when the level of tolerance is more, when understanding prevails with people, when they're empathetic, then the communities prosper. Peaceful coexistence involves individuals to focus on personal growth, creativity, and building meaningful relationships. It thus creates a sense of belongingness and togetherness and leading to stronger societies, healthy societies, stronger societies. Next one is economic prosperity. Peace economics is instrumental in driving economic prosperity at both national and global levels. In areas free from peace, conflict, and violence, businesses flourish, investments can be made, savings can be made, and trade can thrive. Peace thus creates a conducive environment for innovation, entrepreneurship, and job creation. This ultimately leads to economic growth, poverty reduction. Peace economics also reduces the cost of conflict. It quantifies the economic cost of violent conflict. This includes direct costs such as destruction of infrastructure, loss of lives, and displacement of population, as well as the indirect costs such as reduced investment, disruption of economic activities, and long-term impact on the development. The next is trade and economic interdependence. Peace economics also establishes and it also studies the role of trade and economic interdependence in promoting peace and reducing the likelihood of conflict between the nations. It explores how trade relationships, economic cooperation, and regional integration initiatives can foster mutual interest, build trust, and mitigate geopolitical tensions. The next is the usage of human rights. Peace economics it is also linked to human rights and equality. It enforces the human right. In peaceful societies, individuals can exercise their human rights freely without any tension, without any fear. This provides a platform to the marginalized and oppressed group of people to raise their voices. They can raise their concerns. They can fight against discrimination and they can strive for social justice. Without peace, the aspirations of equality, human rights enforcements cannot be fully realized. And now, when we talk about the concept of peace economics, we also say that it also strengthens the role of planners and policy makers. Why am I saying this? Because by understanding the economic dimensions of peace and conflict, the policy makers and planners, they can develop more effective strategies for building lasting peace and prosperity. In context of peace economics, the scope of peace economics considers the economic dimensions of peace building. It talks about building the peace. It talks about conflict resolution. It also talks about prevention of violent conflict. No wars, no wars, and no wars. It emphasizes various aspects that aim at promoting peace and stability within the societies and among the nations. With this, I want to say that when I'm talking about the scope, when I'm talking about the expansion of the horizons of peace economics, I want to say that peace economics basically talks about restoration of peace. If we have to live in a society, if we have neighboring countries, then the wars are not the solution. The things can be resolved by negotiation, by mediation, and the things can be resolved so that we have a better nation, we have a strengthened nation wherein the businesses prosper, wherein the investments are there, wherein the savings are there, wherein the circular flow of income and expenditure moves in a proper manner, wherein the trade is facilitated, wherein we can export our commodities, wherein we can import the commodities that we need. So the peace economics basically, it aims at restoring peace of every kind in the societies. With this, I would like to end up the presentation. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Thank you.